All right, so we're kicking it off. We're going back on. So now that we've gotten the phone call, we're setting this property up for an appointment. What should I be doing before I go to the appointment? This is the preparation for the appointment, okay? Before I go on the appointment, I want to know what am I gonna offer for this property? Like before I even get there, I already know what my numbers are gonna be, okay? Now that's important. I mean, it really is in my opinion. But I want to go through and I'm going to run my CMAs. I'm going to figure out what that is. I'm going to figure out what my highest cash sales would be from the MLS. And I'm going to start determining what the retail I might be able to pull out of this property is. But I need to determine what my maximum allowable offer will be. Okay? This answer is going to vary significantly upon multiple different things. Your maximum allowable offer will be dictated upon the current state of your market cycle. Whenever you shift into a heavy seller's market, your margins will typically move north. And whenever you are in a solid buyer's market, they're going to start going down the other direction. You need to understand where you're at in the market. Historically, we've always learned 70% of retail minus repairs is where we need to be. That is a very safe number. It is designed that way for a reason. It's safe. Now, what you will find is when you move into a heavy seller's market, which we are in right now, people start saying, you know what? I'm willing to pay 78 cents on the dollar. I'm willing to pay 84 cents on the dollar. I'm willing to pay 93 cents on the dollar. Well, when you start seeing that people are willing to pay 93 cents and you find yourself consistently getting beat on 70-cent offers, why is that? You don't know your market well enough. Other people are offering more than you because they know of a buyer that will pay more than yours. So knowing your buyer in this standpoint and in this current market is very crucial for you. Knowing if your end buyer would be willing to pay 88 cents. Or knowing that your buyer is buying on different criteria than percentages of retail value. Okay? This is where we start getting a little bit more in depth. Okay? Does everybody in here, let me explain what 70% means. If I have a house that's worth 100 grand, I never want to pay more than 70% of that, no matter what. Which means there would never be a point in time where I pay more than $70,000 for that property minus repairs. If it needs $20,000 in repairs, my offer never goes more than what? 50 grand. Simple formula. What you might be able to find out is if you start hanging out, remember how I told you earlier, immerse yourself into this new industry? Start going to your REIAs and start talking to all of the potential buyers around and saying, what margins are you buying at? Where are you buying at? What's going on here? What are you looking for in a property? You might find out they're like, we'll buy it 80 cents on the dollar if it's a 3-2 brick built after 1980. Okay, well now you know that if you can get something at 75 cents on the dollar, you just made 5 cents. 5 cents don't sound like much until you're on a $300,000 property. It's not a bad payday. It's not the best, but it's a good payday. All right? What if you find out that the people don't care about a percentage of retail value? They don't care. They'll pay full value for it. They don't care. Is that type of buyer valuable to you? Yes. That is where networking is important to you. That is where establishing a well-understood, flow of product in your market looks like. And the only way to do that is start talking with people and figuring out what people are willing to do. There are other ways of analyzing these deals. I would never in my right mind evaluate single-family rentals on a cap rate, ever. But you do have buyers that buy single-family homes on caps. Now, do I have the time to explain to you what capitalization rates are? No. But if you do not know what a cap rate is, remember how I told you earlier, when you start hearing words that you don't know, what is you're going to do? Google. It's an awesome mentor of mine. I'll go out there and Google it. Really, to boil it down in the simplest of ways, cap rate means nothing but what's my ROI? That's really all it's really asking. And you'll start finding people that'll buy on a 5 or 6% ROI on a single family home. I find that ludicrous, but you will do it. Now, there are reasons why they do that, and I'm not going to get into discussions about why somebody would do that, but a lot of the times you will find California investors that are just looking to park money to write off their earned income anywhere they can earn it, and they'll just park it into a full retail value asset at a 5% return. Well, if you can find those kinds of buyers, do you think your ability to wholesale just went up considerably? Because now when you're going on all these appointments and the people are offering 70 cents on the dollar minus repairs, and you just offered 88 cents on the dollar cash, you just got the property. Okay? Now, another way of running through a real quick analysis of your numbers over the phone is what I call a rent ratio. A rent ratio, I don't know if that's the true term for it or not, but what is 1% of the after repaired value? If a property's worth $120,000, what's 1% of that? $1,200. How much will this property rent for? If the property will rent for $1,200, I have a 1% rent ratio. What happens if the property rents for $2,400 and the house is worth $120,000? It's a 2% rent ratio. The higher that rent ratio is, the higher the probability of you finding a landlord that would be willing to buy it is. If you get on the phone with somebody and they're like, I'll sell you the house for $50,000 and it rents for $900, that's almost a 2% rent ratio. You have a high probability of finding a landlord that will close that transaction. I don't even analyze the deal past that. It's like, okay, is it currently rented? Yeah, it's currently rented. How much is it currently rented for? $900 a month. How much do you want for it? $50,000. Almost a 2% rent ratio right off the bat. I'll contract it. So it's different ways of analyzing deals based upon your buyers. Understanding that you may have hedge funds or iBuyers or other people that are willing to buy outside of traditional mom and pop buying criteria will expand your wholesaling to a different level. Okay? Get out, network, find your end buyers. One way to do that is call up all the investor title companies around town and say, who's closing a lot of volume with you? Okay? Your mobile office. I need to prepare for this appointment. I do not want to get to that appointment and realize that I forgot a significant piece of my paperwork. I do not want to get there and find out that this is an affidavit of heirship and I'm not prepared for it. I don't want to get there and not have a third-party mortgage, third-party authorization for a mortgage if it's going to be a pre-foreclosure. I need all that stuff prepared for me right now because if I get there and I don't have the paperwork, what I have historically found is a motivated seller's motivation really seems to stop about the time they sign the contract. Your ability to get back in touch with them, your ability to get them to the title company, your ability to get them to perform is often a struggle. That's why the transaction coordination piece of this business is so important because it's that transaction coordinator's job to get that file across the finish line and to close. That makes sense? So what am I going to include in my mobile office? Exactly. Some things that I will keep in mind. I will always have third-party authorizations. Credibility package. And what do I mean by a credibility package? I will have bank statements showing my liquid funds. I will have testimonials from my previous closings. I will have anything I can to make me feel more like the expert so that way I can convey my credibility while I'm on site. I will keep a letter of intent there with me. A lot of times I will not just leave a contract behind if I can't get one. I'll just put an LOI on the table and say, you know what, you've got 6 hours. I got $180,000 to spend this week and I'm not going to spend it anywhere but where I want to. And if it's gone by the time you call me back, it's gone. Just leave a layer of scarcity on the table there. Memorandums of contracts. I'll get my sellers to sign them off right then and there if I have a sweet deal on the table. Offer to purchase, that's a purchase agreement. Assignment of contracts, receipt of funds, double close contracts, condo purchase agreements, seller's disclosures, lead-based paint addendums, HOA addendums, heirship questionnaires, intestate diagrams. These are all things like take a picture of it. If you don't know what the answers are to these, go through Google. If I wanted to do a full days on probate, I could start talking about heirship questionnaires and intestate diagrams and all those types of things. But this is not a probate class. So, moving forward, I want all of that in my file folder though for a reason. If I show up to this seller appointment and I do find out once I get there, unfortunately, that it is a heir property and it hasn't gone through probate, I want to get all of the heirship questionnaire information taken care of as soon as possible. I'm going to throw out a little tip for anybody that is running probate and or deceased owner properties. Get the contract first and then run through the affidavit of heirship questionnaires afterwards. Because whenever they find out that their brother John that they haven't seen in 35 years that skipped out a long time ago is going to get half of this property, they will be pissed. They get pissy and they get pissy fast. But the reality of it is, John's going to get half of it. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, I don't have a brother named John. Well, you did, and you do. So, we can't close outside of John. So other things, I'll keep a seller's temp lease on me, a buyer's temp lease, a sale of personal property, subject to package, wrap packet, short sale packet, bankruptcy questionnaire, mineral rights addendums, testimonials, blank testimonials, marketing releases, and powers of attorney. Those are all documents that I keep in my car at all times. I never know what type of appointment I'll show up to. I never know what will be discovered upon that appointment. So I keep all of that documentation with me at all times so that way I can execute at the home right then and there, and I've got it locked up. I don't ever want to have to make another return trip. I want the deal and I want it now. I don't play around about that. Okay? Other things. That is, so growing up in a trade, as a tradesman myself, started out as an electrician, moved into HVAC and HVAC control. All of those things to take into consideration, I would show up every day on a job site with a tool bag with drills and screwdrivers and multimeters and all the tools that I needed to perform that day. If I showed up that day and I forgot half my tools, does my foreman give a damn? I just got fired. It's the same thing when you're pulling up to a house. That paper in that file folder is your toolbox. If you show up and you do not have the right tools, you might just get fired. Okay? It's important. Now, I don't want to use that as an excuse. I just gave you a long list of the things that you should have, but don't let that be an excuse for why you're not out there performing. Well, I don't have a third-party authorization yet. All right, well, guess what? You still need to get out there and start doing business. When I first started as an electrician, I had a multimeter, a 10-to-1, and like a hammer. I was making $9 an hour, but as my toolbox built up, I was making more money per hour. It's the same thing that you're going to be looking at on this side. Don't let these little hiccups be excuses. I also like to keep a small toolbox in my vehicle, so that way I've got a flashlight, a 10-in-1 screwdriver, hand sanitizer. You will go into some nasty houses. Oh my Lord, some of the houses you go into are bad. Coveralls. I've gone to some houses, I wouldn't even go in them. I'll just be like, I'll contract a sight unseen, but I'm not going in there. And I'll play it up with the sellers like, I'm not going in there. And they know how bad their house is. They know that the sewer cracked underneath their house 5 years ago and broke their foundation. It's been seeping up through their floorboards for the last 4 years, and that they were a hoarder on top of that, and their entire house is covered in feces water. It smells. They know this. That doesn't mean I'm going to go sloshing around through it. Gloves, camera, 4-foot level. I like to bring a level with me just so that way if the seller's like, this don't have any foundation problems, it's like, boom, it does. Don't argue with me. Just go in every room and put a T on it, put it one direction, the other direction, and then be like, and then if they see you doing that, a lot of times they already know they got a foundation issue, but now without me even saying it, they know I know. It's more so from a negotiation standpoint, because if I give them my offer and they start trying to contest it, well, then I'll start rolling back through my list of repairs that I just came through. I don't ever go in and just beat them up about their property. I always go in and try and build the rapport about the property, and then whenever they contest my price, I start itemizing why my price is what it is. So tape measure, key boxes. I always like to keep a bunch of key boxes in my car, because at the point in time I do get a contract, there's nothing worse than having to go back to the house to put a lockbox on it. I always try to keep lock boxes with me at all times. And a little giant, like if I'm really getting deep on it, a little giant's a small ladder, but it can get really big. You can fit a 4-footer in your trunk, but you can get up on top of a roof like that. So like if I'm getting in there and I'm really trying to get this property, and I'm really arguing with the seller, I'm like, the house needs a new roof. I'll get up there on the roof and I'll start looking through it, and I'll be like, here's the pictures. It's like, it needs a new roof. I'll do whatever I have to do. Whenever I get to the point that it's like, if I'm at the house, I'm going to get the damn contract. I didn't drive 45 minutes for nothing. If I'm at the house, I am not leaving unless I get a contract, and that's the mindset you have to have when you go into it. This is not an opportunity for me to talk to you and find out more about your family. This is an opportunity for me to solve this problem so that way my company can bring in the revenue it needs to survive another month. Don't play games about it. Go in there and get the contract. So, dress code. I like, on my side, to kind of put myself in that seller's shoes and kind of dress, maybe right at where they would be or slightly above. Like, I'm not going to go into a $1.5 million house dressed like this, although I have. It's just not what I'm going to do. It's going to decrease the probability of me getting the contract. There have been times where I went into contract a like $60-ish million contract dressed like this. But I did it with a very well understanding that I would probably be judged by this, but I also got attention dressed like this, making a $60 million contract. So you've got to kind of put yourself in the shoes. Like, if you're going to be going into an $80,000 neighborhood, should I really be showing up suit and tied? Maybe yes, maybe no. It really depends upon how you play the game. But your rapport level would probably be a lot better if you're going into a rural farming country to put on a pair of Wranglers and some dress boots. You're probably going to make a better connection than your $4,000 suit. You know, you just got to think about it. Just kind of think about it. Don't overanalyze it. Business professional, kind of figure that piece out and move forward from there. So that is what I would do to prepare for the appointment. I get my comps, figure out what my offers are going to be, and I'm going to start rolling through and really kind of, you know, swinging back through here, making sure that all my paperwork's legit, my toolbox is ready to go, you know, everything's all good there. Okay? Any questions? How much time do we got on that? We got one coming from online.
It goes back to the 70%. The question was, do you include your title fees on there? And then on top of that, what about double closings?
So where I'm going to go at on that is 70% minus repairs. I don't include closing costs and stuff like that. That's kind of included in that 70%, that 30% discount. Now, if I am going to do a double closing, a lot of companies are used to passing that double closing cost along to the end buyer. But beyond that, like if it's going to end up being $1,000 to $2,000, my deal shouldn't really be that thin to cause that much of a problem on a double close anyways. I wouldn't double close a deal that's that thin. That, you know, a double close might cost me an extra $1,500. And the only reason I double close a property is if the property was that fat. So it shouldn't cause me that much of an issue. Yes?
Just a quick question. What do you mean by third-party authorization?
Third-party authorization. So if I'm working a pre-foreclosure property, I want to speak to that bank so that way I can do everything I can to get that foreclosure stopped. The banks aren't going to talk to me. So what we do is we have the seller sign what's called a third-party authorization, authorizing the bank to speak to me on that seller's behalf. I will file that authorization with the bank, get it imaged into their system, and then I'll start calling them up and being like, hey, can I get a forbearance agreement worked out here? Can I get a stay of foreclosure? Can I get XYZ? Can I do blank, blank, blank? And through that conversation, I'm allowed to speak to the bank and or the foreclosing trustee or whoever else I need to talk to on that seller's behalf. Let's get thank you, Sir Edwin. What was it?
So with contracts, does Propelio have like all those contracts that you listed there?
We do not currently have those. So I personally have all of those, but I have not ran them all through legal. I have not gotten a legal department to say, yeah, go ahead and let's do this. So no, my goal is to have a Propelio legal branch set up at some point in time where we can start offering, you know, pre-reviewed contracts and all that, and kind of just say, you know what, you want your toolbox? Here you go. But we're not at a point to do that yet.
So if you're brand new to wholesaling, where would you direct somebody?
So
to
brand
get all
new,
those
the key
contracts?
things that you're going to need is a purchase agreement, an assignment of contract, and then some of the other ones on there are hit or miss. But ultimately, if you hit me up, oh man, I'll probably just, I'm trying to think what I can do here. Yeah, title company will provide a lot of that. But what I'd say on my side is maybe I'll put together some core basic ones, and I'll just email them out to everybody that signed up for this thing. And I'll put together third-party authorizations and some of the other basic ones. I can't give you my short sale package. I can't give you my sub-2 package. I can't give you those types of things. But the basic assignment and purchase agreement and stuff, I can kind of let a lot of that go. Yes, sir?
Do you have a dollar amount that's attached to what you would double close? One, and also...
I want everybody that's listening, because we've got almost a couple hundred people watching live right now.
Do you have a dollar amount that's attached to what you would double close a contract with, and how do you feel about the assignment contract with a non-fee disclosure?
Okay, I do not know what you mean by non-fee disclosure. Like how much my assignment fee is?
Like instead of doing a double close, it's an assignment.
So, okay,
that-
I see what you're saying. So here's my opinion on that. I've only double closed 2 properties in my entire life as the wholesaler. I've bought from people that double close, but I personally have only double closed 2. Why is that? Well, it increases my fees and everything else. And honestly, like up front, I'm going to do my due diligence with the buyer. Like even if I don't disclose my fee on the assignment, he or she will see it on the HUD. It's going to get revealed to them. So up front, when I'm prepping the buyer, I'm going to say, hey, if it's somebody I've never done business with before, I'm going to be like, what would you say an acceptable assignment fee is for a wholesaler? And I'm going to gauge my reaction based upon theirs. If they're like, well, $5,000 is a good assignment fee for a wholesaler, well, F you. Like you don't dictate to me how much money I get to make. Like what if I told you I was making $10,000 on this deal? What would you say? And if they start giving me heat about it, I'm like, I'm either going to find a different buyer or I'll double close it. But a lot of times what I'm looking to find out of a professional investor is the response back is like, I don't care how much money you make, my numbers work. That's where I feel comfortable. Now, when I start getting to a point where, let's say I'm about to make $80,000 on a $150,000 house on an assignment fee, that is pretty freaking wild. I'm going to go ahead and just close it. I'm not even going to sign it. I'm not going to double close it. I'm just going to close it. If the margins start getting that wild, you want control. And I guarantee you, if you do get like a margin that's that large, even if you do not have the funds to close it yourself, there'd probably be a hard money lender that wouldn't have a problem in their life closing that deal for you. If you have a deal that is that solid, you do not want to jeopardize that payday by introducing it to the market. Because the moment you introduce it to the market, as unfortunate as it may be, and especially as competitive as the market is right now, someone may try and circumvent your contract, and you'd lose that 80 grand. So what I would do is if I have a spread that is that solid, I would close it immediately. And if I have a spread that's a lot fatter, I'll probably double close it unless I have a solid end buyer that I've already worked with. But if I'm doing some due diligence on that end buyer up front, that end buyer's like, hey, I don't want you to make more than 5 grand. You're making more than I am. I'm like, well, I've done a lot more work than you did. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
Now, couldn't you just do a blind HUD or a double blind HUD that would cover the numbers on each side?
The blind HUD only really works for the seller. The end buyer is going to want to see their side of the HUD, and your assignment fee is going to be on their side of the HUD. So they're going to know what your assignment fee was, unless you double close it. But we are getting into the dispo side. I've got a whole class in here just on dispo, so I'm going to defer any other questions about dispo until then. Do we have any other questions about preparing for the appointment? We're good to go. Then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the appointment next. And we're off to see the wizard. All right. So acquisitions. All right, like I said, I haven't had a chance to preview these slides, so I'm going to kind of wing it. I hope that's okay with y'all. Huh? Yep. All right. All right. So while Ryan's doing that,